Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Graveyard House. If you're new, this is a house I bought with my business partner in 2023, early March 2023. Biggest problem it had right away was the foundation. I bought the house completely gutted. The previous owner thought it was going to be restoration. Maybe it got too much for him. He put it back on the market when it was completely gutted and emptied. Foundation was a wreck. First several videos focus on rebuilding this whole section of the house and the foundation that goes around, probably about 30% more of the actual house that we didn't restore. Not yet. I'd like to announce a new sponsor for the series, Titebond. You guys know Titebond. I've worked with them in the past in the workshop, but here more specifically with the house, I'm going to show you all the different applications that they make and solve. Who knew that Titebond glue makes so much stuff outside of the wood shop? I'm going to apply a lot of the stuff here in the house. Later in the video, you'll see me glue the floor down. With a house like this, you have so many applications for all different types of stuff. Expanding foam, all types of sealants, adhesives, and I'm going to go through all of that as the series develops. Another sponsor is G&H. G&H is a local supplier and they wanted to be part of the restoration. They're local guys. They deliver anywhere in the upstate Hudson Valley area. They have two locations. There's one here in Greenville, which is a couple towns away from East Durham, and they have one in Windham. So go check out G&H. Support your local suppliers. It helps the neighborhood. G&H delivered the LP siding over to the horse barn. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to do a horse barn update. You'll get to see what's going on over there. A lot of new changes, a lot of new updates over there. So join me, follow along with the restoration of the Graveyard House. So the last episode ended in early June of this summer. Now this is late June and Mike and I are grabbing some Quikrete over at G&H here in Greenville. We got 25 bags of Quikrete to create a foundation around the chimney. This chimney was built in 1990 by the previous owner, somewhere around 1990-92, I was told by the neighbors. It's not great, it's not perfect, but I'm not getting rid of it. I'm going to keep it, and so Ken is going to do a stone veneer on it. And he realized we need a lot of foundation work done around this. You'll see us tearing apart in the last video, and here we're prepping this foundation, which is going to get a cinder block stack on it up to the height of the floor. And I'm using this Harbor Freight mixer, which works really well. It takes one 80-pound bag at a time. I'm working on the mix. Mike's working on the layout. Mike's done some stone work before. I've never really done this type of work, but I just follow Mike's lead and Ken's lead. And Ken gave us the directions to do what we're doing here. And you'll see later in the video, Ken's going to stone stack it all up. In the meantime, let's go around to the side in front of the house and take a look at the foundation that's getting worked on. Now this is the front corner of the house. Ken's just kept picking away at it, and it definitely needs work. It was stone stacked a long time ago, and you can see Ken beginning his first course. We already dug up and gravel deep underneath it, and here you could see where he scabbed it into the original wall. Or rather, the new wall was scabbed into the original wall, really just basically redone. And here you could see, this a few days later from that previous clip, you could see how the concrete is all dried. And just a little bit at a time, that's my motto, a little bit at a time, it eventually begins to connect together. And now we're getting cinder blocks over at G&H. The cinder blocks are going to go stacked around the chimney to bring it up to the floor height. And then right at the floor height is when Ken is going to begin his stone veneer. And the veneer is not going to be veneer in the traditional sense, like those cultured stones that you might be thinking of. They're going to really be the stone that you see on the foundation, but thinner, about 7-8 inches deep. And so the chimney is going to look like the foundation a little bit. And Ken's going to do the lintel and the hearth and everything with big chunks of stone that we're all going to put in place. Now back to the front foundation. Ken's assistant is doing some stone stacking here. He's getting all the parts in. And it had to make its way around to the front. And Ken gave me a call one day when I wasn't around. He said, "Don't get scared, but I need you to come take a look." And so I showed up. And you're going to be surprised as well as I was. But I wasn't worried. After going through what we've gone through on this place, nothing scares me. Everything can be fixed. Everything can be redone.
Oh yeah, something degrees.
Oh, I haven't even paid attention to the weather. So.
It really makes the basement a lot more roomier.
And a little less secure. That was another nice big hole for animals. Yeah, so I'm gonna put more crushed stone in here too. We're just getting ready to get started.
All right.
And I need to think a little more about what I'm gonna do on the basement.
Want to play with the big
We'll
boys?
never know if they do anything to this foundation ever in the future. They'll still be watching your videos. But they going just like we're going. We'll still be going. That's all.
It's obviously a lot of time and labor to get this all sorted out and fixed up, but it's not really high stakes. This part of the house is like a clubhouse, to be honest. It's not very heavy. Anything is easily movable and put back into square. So that's what we did. We just sorted it out, and Ken began repairing everything.
Saber, just tip it in the back here, or you want to put it over in the pile over there?
Put it right over there.
Okay.
That's all the other range.
Yeah, no problem. I'll move it out of your way.
Put it in the wheelbarrow or set it to the side.
There you go.
There we go. All right. Yeah, that's probably about where I'm going to. Okay. I'll let you down in here. Yeah, I don't care. Unless there's something good in there.
Yeah, that's all I missed. I got it.
Yeah, I get all this stuff out. We'll leave these. Take this one on top. Maybe put this one back in.
In here you could see that this needs a floor. What I'm waiting on is till Ken finishes the foundation that's going to carry the brick wall, or the stone wall. More accurately, we're going to put a stone wall that's going to encase the three sides, the short sides and the front side. The back side I'm going to save for some sort of type of art treatment, which could be glued on. But this is going to get a beam in front of the fireplace and a beam in back of the fireplace, and from that beam to there is about 13 feet. Going to get 12-inch floor joists, and then the floor joists are going to get connected from this beam to the beam that's going there.
Right, it's solid is about the good thing to say about it. Is it square and perfectly level and all that? No.
That's all right. You're going to put a bunch of misshapen rocks on it anyway.
Right, that's right. So we want it to be really solid so that whatever's on it, it all comes together. This kind of, brought everything to kind of together.
Yeah. This is a lot better than what was there. I mean, we couldn't have done anything.
Yeah, right. And back here, this leaves it if you want to do something, you still open that up.
Oh, good.
Right. But if you wanted to do, like I said, I know you probably haven't had this planned out. So probably what I would be helpful to me
Yeah.
is if I knew where I was coming to here,
Uh-huh.
because then when I laid a couple courses,
Mhm.
so I think it's probably here, and if I make that be the line.
Yeah, so
you
if
just gotta put,
I mean, if you wanted to come out to here,
There's one book I like about Stonewood, and that's kind of, and then the last words of he writes the forward in it, and he's talking about going to an old site, and then at the end he says, and only the stones remain.
exactly.
That's kind of, that.
Yeah. Very zen.
That feeling of, you're doing something, or that's how it is. There was no garbage 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Right, so how do you tell where there was a house?
Yeah. Only the stones remain.
Yeah, that's good. I like those words.
And now it's time to put the floor in. These 8x8s are going to carry the floor across the 30-foot span. There's going to be one in front of the fireplace and one on the back of the fireplace. And I'm going to go from 8x8 to sill plate to 8x8 to 8x8 to 8x8 to sill plate. And you'll see what I mean when we start filling in the floor. Now, everyone's going to scream and yell in the comments that I'm going to do 2x8s to carry the floor. I should have done 2x12s, but the problem with that is that the 2x12s would have to be notched over the bevel of the foundation. You notice how the foundation rocks spill into the crawl space. So right at each sill plate, it's 8 inches high, but I would have to bevel a 12-inch down over the stone face. I did not think it was necessary to do all that work, so I decided to get 8x8s and just go from sill plate to sill plate with 8x8s, and using the metal carriers, the 2x8 carriers. You'll see ultimately I put them in place. I strongly feel that I could support this floor from underneath if need be. I'm doing 2x8s, 12 inches on center, with a 3/4 inch floor glued to the top of it, and that's the subfloor. I will also then put radiant heat in between it and then planking. So there's going to be plenty of support on this floor. And I could always get underneath there and add some screw jacks or anything I need to support it even more. So I'm not concerned. We got the front 8x8 in, now we're putting in the back 8x8. You'll notice how the new construction is square and the fireplace is not. That's what Ken was talking about in those previous clips. And we're just deciding how to put this in place. And I said, let's go to the machine shop. And we made these 3x3 clips in the machine shop with these big timber fasteners, which we're having a hard time getting in, as you can see there. But these big timber fasteners, thank you, these are made by the company that owns Robertson Screws, and I have a little relationship cooking with them, and they supply these big timber fasteners. These things are incredible. It's great to have them. I use them for clamping all the time. I use them and then take them back out of some of the times I use them as clamps, so they come in really handy. I have 4, 5, 6, 8s, and 10s, and I tell you what, they come in very, very, very handy. And this whole thing is all held together with those. In the meantime, there's going to be plenty of other construction in here you'll see in a few minutes. Back to G&H for some 2x8s. I like leaving all my construction materials at the lumberyard. I don't like having extra material sitting around that's going to get used in 4 months from now. So as I need it, I go and I buy it. And here we are at G&H, which has a covered delivery spot here. You can drive inside in any weather and get your materials. That's why I like going here. You don't have to load up in the cold and the rain.
You remind me of my old partner. He used to fucking use a Sharpie for everything when we were cutting tile. I'm like, but this is no big deal. We're cutting tile. I'm like, what? He's like, it's there. Don't you see it? I go, the fucking 1/4 inch, I said. I go, what am I supposed to do with that? I go, what do you want me to cut? He's gonna drive me nuts. Look at the mark. It's 3/16 of an inch. Which one, here or here? What do you want me to cut?
In the middle.
This is what you fit, you don't fit.
Mike brought it up, and so did some fans and Patreon and people that have been seeing this stuff a little bit early on. What about a vapor barrier? Am I going to get mold under this floor? I consulted with Ken, who's done this for 30 plus, maybe 40 years. And I said, Ken, what is your opinion? Do I need a vapor barrier? He said, the bricks, or rather the stack stone, breathes, and you don't need a vapor barrier. That's Ken's opinion. That's another reason why I left the hatch in the floor, so I could check, and if I have any problems in time, I'll correct them. But Ken, rest assured, he says you do not need a vapor barrier. There's going to be plenty of airflow underneath there. He thinks I'll be okay.
Smile, you're on a YouTube video now.
Mike loves when the camera comes in. I know Mike's got something really juicy to say. He's like, is that on?
I go, are we filming? And he's like, yes. I'm like, okay, I'll just wait.
That's going in. That's an edit.
That's an edit. That's an edit.
That's the Metabo hanger fastener. You could put the safety tip right into the nail hole, pull the trigger, and it shoots a nail directly into the fastener's nail hole. Works great. I used it on my front porch deck, and I used it here. Works really well if you're putting a lot of hangers in. You notice the way we did it, we I toenailed them all in place, and Mike followed me up and put the fasteners in. It makes life pretty easy to just try and put the fasteners in first, and space them is a pain in the ass. You just do this and everything moves easy peasy. Inside out.
Yeah, that's right. But that'll be, so then tomorrow I will, because I can't stick them in if that's too high, because I can't get them in and then up and around.
Yeah. I'll get it.
So even if it's a little higher than the sill or the
maybe I'll just hit it with the circ saw if I can get the circ saw in there. I'll make them all clean, and maybe if they're a little bit higher than the sill.
That's right. It doesn't matter because whatever you do is going to come
over anyway.
Over that anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to make it that much higher, but
but I'll kiss it up.
Yeah. A quarter
clean it up too.
I think, and then I can get in. Then when I go and fill afterwards, I put a little bit of mortar on the top to try and.
And here I'm making the hatch. The hatch is going to be on both sides. I made it big enough so that if me or Patrick or anybody needs to get up in there, even the guys that are going to do the spray foam later, have plenty of room to get up and inside there. And that hatch will come out just like a hatch in the floor of a ship. And to start seeing the vision, I wanted to pull down this wall. This wall was put in by the previous owner. It was really just to separate the weather from this part of the house because he was actually living in it. So I'm breaking this wall out so I can get a better view. And also it's a time for me to start leveling the floor from the new construction into the old construction. I'm going to peel up the entire floor and put down a new surface. There's several levels. There was various rooms that had different floors put into those rooms and floors taken out. So it is time to level the floor completely across all parts of the house. And that's what I'm going to try and do here. And this is just the beginning of that task. And this little notch was a weird notch. So we decided to get rid of it. It was Ken's idea to carry the foundation straight across and then just bump this out and then make it some sort of cupboard or a closet inside the house, maybe even a spot for the refrigerator. We're still working on that, me and Ryan. So you can see how we brought the foundation completely across. And so I'm ripping out all the old construction. And the water, that all has to be fixed out later when I redo the roof. But the water comes in and converses here and then shoots off of that little roof, which you'll see in time. I put all new construction in this area right here. What do we think? Imagine this right there. Think it's gonna fit? Facebook Market.
$1.
About 1/3 what it's worth is what we paid. Unused, a little beat up. Needs the installation flanges. Is that what he said? They not even look like they never even were on here.
Yeah, he said they didn't even come with them.
So we're just gonna make them. I'll make them out of steel. All right, Rob, get it out. This is that little notch where I just broke the windows out of. I'm putting in some new construction. This is going to be the roof. It's going to be a very wet area. I'm using some heavy-duty Titebond construction adhesive, really just to keep everything in place and also to try and weatherproof it a little bit. Obviously, be lots of flashing and stuff that goes over here to protect everything. But just to keep bees out. This house is very prone to having a lot of bees and bugs come in and make a nest, so that's why I wanted to seal up these few pieces of zip board in there. And you'll see how I begin to really close this area in. And right here I'm putting some construction on the outside. And you see how I had to close up and get the zip board up inside of the dormer there, or what is that, the eave? I don't know what the part is called. I don't usually do this type of construction, and it's really difficult for me to figure it out. People often ask me, they say, what do you hate doing the most? And it's this right here. Doing it is not fun. David, the Mexican carpenter, and Kyle are my heroes because they do this all day long and they're so good at it. And I just don't have enough experience to really know exactly what to do. In fact, Mike is my consigliere when it comes to this type of construction because Mike has a lot of experience with this stuff. And so Mike will see me doing something and he'll go, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then he'll tell me the right way to do it. And here I'm ripping up the floor to start to see what I have to contend with. This is all old floorboards. I could make a boat out of it, but I don't have the time anymore. I'm just going to turn it into firewood. These parquet floors were probably put into the house, I'd say in the 50s. And when I ripped up the floor, there's so many layers of flooring in some spots. And the floor looks like it was from an abandoned house. So I got to do a little bit more research, but I have a strong suspicion that this house may have been abandoned, because when I tear up these floors, there might have been a time where the weather was taking this place over. The floors just look like the floor that would be in a murder shack. And if somebody lived that way, I would be really surprised. I'll show that in another video when I dig into these floors a little bit more. But actually under this, I pull this up, and then there's another layer under this, which I'll show in the next video. And it was just, I was like, wow, it makes me feel the house was definitely abandoned at one point in time. Now here it is, it's October, and the winter is going to be just around the corner, so it's time to close this up so it doesn't spend another winter out in the open. And I'm putting in the zip board by myself, which is absolutely no fun. Mike was working today, but I wanted to keep moving. And you'll notice what I'm doing. I'm putting in bits and pieces to keep the boards where I want them while I fit them in place. You'll also notice that the other day I just didn't feel like dealing with cameras. I framed in the window, I cut out all the timbers and framed in the window, and that was my first piece of zip board that I did around the window. And today I'm going to try and put up, and this is a funny piece, this is a comical moment. How am I going to get this up there? How do I get it up there? How do I get it up there and stay up there? You see how I'm putting in temporary bits and pieces to keep everything in place. And then I'm putting the pry bar to get it up, tight up to the top, and then I got to put it up and pry it and put a screw in it when it lands in place, and then I'm fumbling, and then I get it back up in place with all the strength in my upper body to hold that sheet up and over my head with the furthest stretch I could possibly make without standing on anything. And I remembered the wedge. The wedge saves the day. I'm going to talk about the wedge in a minute. And once I get it up and close, the wedge puts me back in place. And I'm not used to this. I can't tell you how many times I missed the stud on the other side, even though that there's markings there. And this is when I realized I put the stud on the wrong side of the X, and several times, but you stand back, everything looks good, and then when you miss a screw, you step back, and then suddenly, they're no longer 16 on center, magically all month long. The minute you miss, you look back, and now all of a sudden there's more space between studs than there was when you thought you did everything perfect. Now, I'm sheeting it. I do have windows and doors to cut into this. I don't want to leave it open while I make these decisions. They're in the floor plan. I also need to find stuff either on Facebook Market or bite the bullet and buy brand new stuff that it's going to accommodate the door that's going to go right here, and then a window just a little bit more to the right of screen. So until I find those, I'm just going to button up the building just so the weather doesn't start taking it back. But everything will get notched in time. Never underestimate the importance and usefulness of a wedge. Make these up out of scrap wood. This way you can put things in place, hold things in place, and you could even jam several wedges between stuff to separate them. Even if the nails are holding, you'd be surprised if you put wedges all around something that's fastened to something else and you just slowly bang them all in. Eventually those screws pop off. It's a good way to take things apart without destroying them. Long, shallow wedges. More than ever, I'm in touch with the tech team over at Titebond. If anybody out there has any questions for me, needs me to answer any stuff in the next videos, send me some questions to my email. I'll put it in the comments section below. Here I'm using some fast set to glue the floor down. This will prevent squeaks over time if the floor begins to loosen up. I'm screwing everything, so I'm not overly concerned about that, but this will also just help in the overall strength of the floor. And putting glue under every contact between the floor and the joist. You notice I'm leaving a 1-foot section around the floor, and that's just so we could roughen the electric when we're ready for it. We're still working on the floor plan, but I want to keep construction moving along. So we're going to leave that 1-foot section open around the floor so Patrick can do his electrical rough-in. Make it easy for him so he doesn't have to live under the crawl space for all that time. And one thing I did notice with the Titebond, the first tube I used was in the shadows in the house. So right when I first got started, and I went and got the stock out, it's important to work between the temperatures on the instructions. When I put it in the sun, it pumped out of the tube like butter. That first tube was a bit of a struggle because it was cold. And now here you see I'm laying out the floor and cutting out the hatch. That hatch is until everything is all set and done. I might just ultimately glue it or nail it shut, but it's really just till all the other surfaces are in place. Floor is all getting screwed down with 3-inch screws. And this is I think this is called a Vantech, the flooring. Got it over at G&H. It's the subfloor. And on top of this, I'm going to do radiant, and then on top of radiant, I'm going to do planks. I'm going to try and do wide planks so the house looks vintage, keeping with the vintage style. This is the next big stage for me. I had a little bit of an emotional and a mental block about putting the floor in and putting the zip siding on. It had a lot to do with not having the floor plan set up, but I got over that. This really is going to motivate me to keep moving. When you make big steps like this, it really helps in keeping your motivation going. And that's what I needed. That's why this episode is a little bit delayed. I was also stuck on the barn. I'm going to be doing a barn update, and you'll be seeing all the work I did there. So this is the end of the last day of shooting for this video, but I'm going to get right back to it right after the weekend. This next coming weekend is going to be Maker Camp, so if anybody is watching this series and you're enjoying it, come up to me at Maker Camp if you see me and let me know. Be curious if there's anything else you want to see. You could always comment below if there's anything about this series that bugs you, anything you love. I'm basically your average moron homeowner that thinks he knows how to do everything, so hopefully you guys can relate. I'm really not an expert when it comes to this stuff. I rely on my friends. All right, I'm going to end the video here, but you could rest assured I'll be back here Monday to keep putting up zip board, closing this in, and starting the next episode. Got to deal with the floor. Flooring's going to go all the way through there, into here. Next few episodes are going to really focus on getting this floor level, ripped up, and prepped for radiant floor. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Titebond. Thank you, G&H. And thank you to the fans that support me here and on Patreon. Thank you very much. I love you.